Happy Thursday. Today is Thursday, July 9th, 2020, and we're back with daily Bible readings from the Wesley Center. Today's daily Bible readings, which, once again, I don't think I've reminded people this for a while, they come from the Revised Standard, Revised Common Lectionary, I should say. Revised Standard is a Bible. Revised Common Lectionary. And they were a group of readings that were put together, and the daily readings are tied to the readings that go for special, like Sunday worship and all the high holy days of the Christian year. And the first half of the week kind of are readings that tie to the previous Sundays that help you process them. And then the second half of the week are tied to the coming Sunday's scripture readings to help you get ready for that. So if you're watching this pretty often, you're ready for the Sunday service if your pastor is someone who preaches from the Revised Common Lectionary. So anyway, the scriptures for today, if you were reading, were Psalm 119, 105 through 112, Exodus 3, 1 through 6, Romans 2, 12 through 16, or you could have read Psalm 65, 9 through 13, and Isaiah 48, 1 through 5, and then again finished up with Romans. Today I'm going to look at Exodus 3, 1 through 6, because there's a thing in here that always makes me wonder about God. And I know that's kind of sounds like a doofy thing to say. I mean, everything you read in the Bible should make you wonder about God. But this makes me wonder specifically about his existence and how does he experience the world? So there's this is the story, if you don't remember it, if you haven't read it, I should say, of where Moses, after he has fled from Egypt and he finds a girl that he just loves and marries her and is living in the household of his father-in-law Jethro, who we're told is a priest of Midian. He's out taking care of his father-in-law's flocks, and he's up in the hill countries, and this is where he has his burning bush experience, where he sees this bush that's on fire and yet not consumed, and we've talked about this before. That's not what I want to get into. What I want to get into is the way God introduces himself to Moses and what he says. He calls out to Moses, and Moses says, "Here I am," and then he says, "Come no closer, remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground." He said, "Further, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. What I want to talk about is this I am. It's this idea that God has one form of being, right? And it's about the verb be, or to be, right? Be, I am, I was, right? I am, it's his name, right? Later on, when Moses, after he sends Moses, spoiler alert, he sends Moses to go deliver the people out of slavery in Egypt. But when he does that, and Moses says, well, who should I say? They're going to want to know on whose authority I'm here and who sent me. Who should I say? And God's response is, I am. That's his name. It's this idea that God isn't past and is future, is he is, right? He just is. I am. He says, I'm the God of your father, not I was the God of your father. And after all, they were dead. That would be correct to say, I was the God of your father, because he's not here. I was the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac. I was the God of Jacob. No, he says, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac. I am the God of Jacob, and I am your God too. So it's not I was, it's I am. That's interesting. Like I said, it gets me, and maybe I'm just reading too much into this. If you think I'm being silly, you're fine to move on. But it brings up to me questions about God in time. There's a guy named John Polkinghorne, and if you're really a person who's really interested in science, but you have a hard time of trying to justify your interest in science with your Christian faith, he's a person you might want to read. Look him up, John Polkinghorne, and later on I'll try to put a link to some of his stuff on with the YouTube version of this. We show this on YouTube later in case you're only watching this on IGTV. But John Polkinghorne has a book called Belief in God in an Age of Science. And one of the chapters in there, he talks about God in time and how God relates to our reality in time. And he talks about the becomingness of the world. The becomingness of the world is a phrase that Polkinghorne uses. It's the notion that it's not all set in stone, that the world the universe is in a constant state of becoming. And he talks about the way the language that we see in the Old and New Testaments points towards that. He says, the God of both the Old and the New Testaments seems to have a deep engagement with historical process, with the becomingness of the world. And so it's an image of a God, he goes on elsewhere to say, image of a God who is omnipresent in time, right? He's not just some passive observer sitting outside, like observing the universe and observing all time as if it's just like all in some neat little box and he has it sitting there on his desk and he can just watch it and see everything that happens and that's how he knows. No, Polkinghorne is saying that God is present at all in the universe at all times. Like somehow he is constantly present, and experiencing and seeing all these things with us, which is just a kind of a weird idea to try to wrap your mind around. So it's not like he's, like I said, pondering some cube in which all of the universe and time is visible to him. He is active in it as it becomes, which is just an incredible thing. And so that's why, I think what he's saying here is that he's present with Moses just as he is present with Abraham, and he is present with Isaac, and he is present with Jacob. He is present in the process of this world becoming what it's going to become. And that's really an important thing, because that means he's present with us as we become who we are trying to become. And that's not just a thing that should be important to younger people, especially those of you who are, getting ready to make that transition out of the world of high school into the world of college, or, you've just taken that fateful step out of the world of college and now you have to really set foot in, both feet down in the world of adulthood. But it's an important thing for people like me to remember, and people older than me. I know for some of you that's hard to believe that there are people older than me. But, it's this idea that we're not set in stone, that we are always in the process of becoming. And for me personally, it's very reassuring to know that there is a God who is constantly present with me each step of the way as I constantly move forward into that world of becoming, right? Polkinghorne says this, about this idea of God being present with us as we become. And he says the future is not up there, right? It's not up there waiting for us to arrive, but we play our parts in making it as we go along our temporal way. In other words, it's not this idea that that it's all been written out ahead of time and we have no choice as what happens to us, that it's just fate, that it's, doesn't, you're going to end up where you're going to end up. No, it's the idea that we are in a state, we are constantly becoming, and we can become who God really wants us to become. For me, that's really kind of the crux of the idea of salvation and redemption. It's like we talked about recently with Jeremiah, and God saying to the people through Jeremiah, look, it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to be so stubborn, and you don't have to go down that path. If you'll change your mind, you can change your mind. I'll change my mind. So it's this God who is constantly active in history and constantly present with us as we and the world become whatever it is we're going to become. And hopefully what we become are people after God's own heart. So that's the DBR for today, such as it is, and we'll be back tomorrow. See you later. Boop.